Hi.
Hey,
Hello. Welcome,
It's so
everybody.
good to see your faces.
I'm
I
so glad to be
know.
here.
I'm so happy we didn't have a Bobby's Cryptid Corner last week, and I felt kind of robbed a little bit,
I'm
Me
so
too. I was like,
sorry.
Bobby's back, but not this week.
but not this week.
Oh, I believe you.
It's all good. We're back. We're doing a cool episode today. That weird little dude in the corner, that angry little fucker right there.
Right
The
there.
Yowie.
The Yowie, which is
Yowie.
I guess like best described as Australia's Bigfoot.
Yeah.
For
Yeah,
That's like the
sure.
most common kind of name that I came across during the research that's what it was.
Mhm.
We're going to talk a bit about the we're going to compare and contrast that quite a bit, I think, as we go along and move through this episode, but any kind of intro banter or updates you want to get into before we jump into it?
Oh, life
I
is
think
great.
Life
I
is
think we've all
great.
been drinking is what's happening.
It was like we've been hanging out
Oh,
and smoking backstage for like the last half an hour, I think, and we've been talking about the Yowie almost the whole time. So I think we're
That's
just
true.
ready. I think we're just ready to jump into the Yowie and what it is. So
well, this is
Bobby,
wait, whoa.
oh, okay, whoa.
Housekeeping. This
Okay,
is our
housekeeping.
first two things. One, this is our first live stream on Twitch. Is that fair to say?
Yes, it is. Yes,
I
absolutely.
see the scrolly thing. So every time I say Yowie, you got a drink. I thought that was supposed to be a secret.
Oh, Bobby, why do you have to pay attention to everything so much?
It's okay. I'm gonna say it a lot. I'm not gonna stop
Well, you
myself from
said
saying
it,
it.
so
I like how
First one.
I like how in drinking games, like drinking is the punishment, as if that's not why we all got together in the first place.
I would need an
Mhm,
excuse.
Hey,
I
you
like
guys
the
ready
other
for
one
this?
better.
Yowie.
Wow. fucking
Yowie.
See, but
Now
now
I
that I
have all
know
the
you
power.
drink.
We're gonna be real fucked up.
I know exactly. All right.
Tuesday. Yeah, so there's our first time live on Twitch, right?
Yes.
Mhm.
So shout out to those
Twitch.
folks.
Shout
And
out,
then
homies.
also I want to start a
Okay.
rule. Obviously, we established the one every time I say Yowie, you got a drink.
Oh, fuck.
No, wrong dude. I did
Mm.
not make that cute little guy for nothing. Look at
Sorry,
him
sorry. I hit
with
I
his
slipped. Wrong
beer
one.
hat on.
And I'd like to also establish a precedent now.
Mhm.
Anytime someone tries to do a bad or an Australian accent whatsoever, that is an automatic hate crime.
Oh, okay. All right. I agree.
Yes.
100%. 100%. 100%.
It's just so loud. Oh my god. Okay.
I know.
It's so good though. Like
It's so good.
So I don't know. Maybe that should have been a secret that we kept.
It's
I don't know who would be
too
most likely to
loud.
do a Australian accent.
I'm trying to think back to Aussie's Hot 100
That was
Only longtime listeners would
It was
know
a
what
long
Aussie's
time ago.
Hot 100 was, and it's such a hard one.
Well, before we get started, since I've said Yowie so many times, I got to prep for the future of the episode. Someone left at my house.
This is all I have. This is all I have. So
I have a Sonic America's Drive-In hard seltzer that was left in my refrigerator. So
What flavor
fun.
is it? Is it cherry?
It's actually original limeade.
Wow.
Wow.
Hey,
Where did you
real
guys
quick,
get that
side
from?
tangent. Are you guys hard seltzer drinkers at all?
I am.
What's the last flavor you guys pick?
Black cherry.
What's
really?
the
That's
last
like my
flavor?
favorite.
What?
Like what's
Like,
like
well-
the last like your least favorite that's always like left over in the fridge?
Like you save it till the end and you only drink it if you have to.
Mango.
Yeah, mango's not
I'm
good either.
mango all day. Mango needs
trash.
to die.
Mango.
I don't like mango in general.
Sure. And it's one of the flavors that has its own pack.
Oh,
Why?
someone's out there drinking.
Why? Who? What psychopath or serial killer just buys mango?
That is exactly what that is.
Honestly,
okay.
I love White Claw iced teas, and the lemon is my favorite. It really does taste like a lemon iced tea. It's so good, but for some reason, it doesn't have its own pack. But the nasty ass mango ass licking of the back of a bus kind of seat rubber that has its own pack. I'm like, who decides these things, and how can I find them?
Someone that tested positive in some stupid focus group or something. So
There's
there's a reason for it.
a reason there is.
Decisions were made, Bree.
Decisions were bad.
So let's talk about the
Yowie.
I love that you keep saying Yowie like that, and it's also called. Some people call it the Yahoo, which is
the
perfect.
Yahoo, the Yahoo, the Yowie.
Mhm.
Oh, okay. I thought you were segueing me there. The Yowie.
I was.
I'm gonna call it out. The Yowie, aka the Yahoo, the Yori, hairy man, or the Yahoo. There's a variety of other terms for it, much like we see in the North American Sasquatch folklore, where like every little like indigenous corner of the region has its own name for it. Now, you guys might be asking yourself, what exactly is a Yowie?
Yowie.
Excuse me.
Drink.
You guys didn't drink. Yeah.
Oh shit.
Essentially what it is a hairy biped covered in brown reddish fur found in the mountains and bushlands of Australia, most of which in the eastern states of Queensland. Hit me with that map.
Oh, can we go back to that?
Hit me with that map.
Drawing looks just like me.
Jamie.
I gotcha.
Eastern states of Queensland, which is the vast majority of the sightings, New South Wales and Victoria. Victoria is a much smaller region. I think that's why you see a little bit less. However, there's a lot of folklore that extends all the way out into the outback as well, and over in the western side.
Outback.
And I think also one thing you have to understand too about the way like Australia, their landscape. So the reason that you have so many more sightings on the right side of the country is because that's where it's mostly populated, whereas the left-hand side is much more considered like the bush, the open, the country.
Right.
So you have a way bigger population over on this right-hand side, so you get way more sightings, whereas this left-hand side, not as populated, so not so many people are talking about
reporting it.
Great
But
point.
most likely that's where they are the most.
Exactly.
Oh, you think in the outback? That's an interesting
well, if you
map analysis there. I agree with that.
If you think just statistic wise, if the population is so much bigger and you see how many sightings they have, if there was a bigger population inside of that area, you would imagine that you would have those same kind of number of sightings, because like if it's less populated, there has to be more of a chance that these things are out there.
I think it's worth noting too that the continent of Australia in general is fucking enormous
and horrible, and has horrible scary big giant spiders and snakes and things that eat you. Right. It's very scary.
Gross
the coastal areas seem to be the only habitable areas, and I
that's
don't
like
think
iffy. That's iffy.
Yeah, exactly. And then like, well, you know, they made it work, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you take that into account, like from a pure proportional standpoint, I'm pretty sure it's probably, aside from Antarctica, like the least populated continent.
Sure.
And again, the key word there is continent. It's a huge landmass full of criminals and aboriginals.
Right? I was gonna say, wasn't that what they why it was a thing? They ship all the criminals
out there.
Yeah. Island.
Oh, we'll get there.
Now they just look like hot, tan, blonde, white people.
I guess that's most of the criminals were
now you're
tall,
speaking
bland,
my
hot white people. Bobby's like, I'd go there.
Australia.
Why they gotta be white?
Oh, Bree.
Straight
Excellent.
It's so hard. I'm gonna have to mute myself to practice. I
think we're gonna have to. We're gonna have to create a hate crime rule that's on theme every episode from now on.
Yeah, I think we are too. 100%.
All right. So what is it that the may look like? Again, very similar to the North American Sasquatch. Generally, a lot of them are a bit smaller. We'll get to that in a second, though, but anywhere ranging between 5 and 12 feet tall. Wide, flat nose, large feet. Though the track shape and the digits are relatively inconsistent, you may say, well, that's not something prevalent with the North American Sasquatch, but that would be incorrect. There's a lot of Sasquatch tracks in the American Southeast, especially like kind of your swamp ape regions and like that Mississippi Delta down through Texas, Northeast Texas, and Louisiana, that whole area. I want to say that that's a region where we do actually see, misformed, shaped, unorthodox looking Bigfoot tracks. So,
Mm-hmm.
for whatever it's worth. So there is some diversity in the shape of the track, which actually throws a wrench in the gear as far as I'm concerned to some
Yeah,
degree.
for sure. Because I keep seeing that there are almost like two different types
Mm,
of Yowie. There's like the short
Mm-hmm.
fellas. Drink.
right.
There's the short
So
fellas and then the tall fellas.
yeah, there's the much like we see in a lot of these cases is one of those things where like the Westerners came over and the indigenous people like told them or warned them about them, and it's like whatever, we have science, that's not real.
Yeah, right.
And then so it does date back and is acknowledged by natives more or less, at least in folklore. But there is the cuckoo y'all, I'm gonna butcher this.
It's hard.
Apologies to the cuckoo Yala Niji tribe
Cuckoo for
who's
shoe.
probably listening to this right now, of northern Queensland, Australia, who's identified 2 tribes of Yowies.
Oh.
One group is described as 6 to 10 feet tall, covered in thick hair, and also said to have talons for fingers. And then there's another one type known as the Yahoo.
Yahoo!
Oh no, that type is referred to as Yahoo. And then there's the Junjudis, who are believed to be
Junjudi.
smaller, around 3 to 4 feet tall, much like the orang pendek of Indonesia, which isn't too far away from there.
Mm-hmm.
But both have been documented in cave walls, much like we see with a lot of these things that seem to have some credibility, although it's tough for us to accept it at face value. Whereas with the natives, it's just like, nah, dude, they're real. Like, what do you want from me? You got that cave
for
art queued
sure.
up?
No,
And
I don't have any pictures of the cave art. There wasn't any like
Well,
that I could
shit.
find out there. Yeah, there
I can
wasn't.
get it for you.
There's only
There's
you can.
2 I
Okay,
have. Yeah.
Bree has it. There
But
you go.
I know that with the Aboriginals, it was more less documented, the stories. It was passed down verbally with a lot of
Mhm.
these type of
Mhm.
ancient tribe type of stories, and that their name for it translated to hairy man of the wood.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Let me see if I can make this big because this bitch is tiny.
And I don't want to
Oh
go
wow, that's weird.
down the rabbit hole too much because I don't know much about it, but I know like if you look into like a lot of super ancient lore with Australia and how I want to say the Aborigines are like some of the oldest
This is
people on
one.
Earth.
Mhm.
No, yeah, for sure.
How all the
And
animals are anomalies because the continent like broke off and it was almost, there's ancient alien theory that talks about how it was like a lab, like almost like a science lab where they're like experimenting with different types of animals. There's animals there that are not found anywhere else.
Mhm.
so those are
Not
the
even
2.
close.
This is like the most popular one. The hairy people is what like this whole petroglyph thing is called.
Hmm.
I don't see, the only thing I can think of is that the first one here kind of reminds me of like a dog, maybe with the ears. I don't know. This has some weird boobies going on.
Yeah, that looks like a female version, like a smaller
Mm.
female version almost.
Yeah, that one's
Yeah.
stacked.
But this one is
Oh.
a bit undeniable.
Yeah.
That's a
The
weird
weird
thing
cross coming out of its penis
Mm.
throws me
That
off.
thing is hanging. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fucking weird.
Will you send that to me?
Cross stick for show. Yeah,
Interesting.
it's weird.
That looks more like a ape-like humanoid than the other ones to me.
Than the other ones, I agree 100%.
For sure. But you never know. Some of us are good at drawing and some of us are not.
Especially on a cave wall.
You're like, this is the best I can do, bitch.
I was like,
Yeah.
sometimes that's what you get for the Jersey Devil. Like,
Yeah, exactly. And we have,
Mhm.
We're better at describing things, and even then, I don't think we're
like,
can
could you imagine if I
necessarily hold up
drew
to
that
par.
on a cave wall as my representation and somebody took that as literal and thought that that's what that looked like, but that was just my artist representation of it?
Yeah,
Could you
That's
imagine?
true.
those drawings are accompanied by the like mythology or folklore of the tribes too. So that's what like gives it
But who's also not just to say that there just wasn't this lone graffiti artist out there who was just like in his secret cave
Okay.
drawing pictures.
I mean, sure. But I like to think it's
Yes.
real.
I do too.
And
And
that
I
thing
think that
represents
drawing,
this very real Yowie drink.
yeah, the drawing is good. I think that the drawing is pretty damn good, if you ask me. And I
We're
think
getting
it's interesting. I think it's interesting that the Aboriginals in general are saying that this isn't an animal, that we tend to think of things like with cryptids as being an animal, but
Male.
that they're passed down as them being as the overall Yowie,
what?
as being the first humans, basically, that they were the first ancient people, that they weren't animal, they were just the first ancient people.
Yeah, and that's actually like one of the theories with these in particular, which you'll see with Bigfoot as well. But I feel like it's a little more, recognized on this side of the world as like, no, these are just like an ancient tribe of people, basically.
Yes.
Which
One
is
thing,
interesting
though,
too,
that
because you hear about the more animalistic traits of them as well. So who knows?
Yeah.
Like later when you start to talk about the more media sensationalized version of the Yowie, yes, it seems to be a lot more negative and attacky and like not attacky. Yeah, like, attacky.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how attacky is a Yowie?
America. Actually, currently
Yowie?
Russia. Currently Russia. If I'd had to say on a scale from 1 to 10, Russia.
You're lacking.
I don't get it. I'm going to drink.
Because Russia's going to attack Ukraine?
No, Jamie's lacking on her buttons.
I bet that doesn't happen, but we could talk about that another time.
That's right. Okay. Anyways.
Yowie.
Go on.
So a few notable history. Like I mentioned, they claim it's Aboriginal, right? Aborigine?
Mm-hmm. Aboriginal.
The Aboriginals claim that they are real. They also regard them as mythical, and they have magic powers. They equate the Yowie himself, what we know as the Yowie, in their own mythology, to the Dulagal, or hairy man, which is also, as you had mentioned, Bree, has been believed to existed since the dawn of time. So they're a very ancient race of Bigfoots from Australia, Australian Bigfoots. The documented sightings, we had a little clarification conversation about this, so let's just do it right now. There are stories, as we were mentioning earlier, that get passed down in regards to this, and then there are also documented sightings that showed up in like articles and things like that. So the first documented sightings by Westerners go back to like the 19th century account describing an indigenous ape, but again are also referenced in Aboriginal folklore quite a bit. Your thoughts, Jamie or Bree?
So it's interesting because, like I said earlier, before we started talking about this exact same thing, is that in the 19th century, it got sensationalized by the media. And this is where you have a ton of flood of all these different stories of like all over Australia. People are coming out and they're talking about this creature. So it's interesting that before it was like this folklore, it was this thing that was passed down, it was story that was told from generation to generation in front of fires, and now there's tales of it attacking people and it targeting people and it, purposely coming after people. So it's like interesting, the shift in narrative. And it's funny because the difference between those two things is the Aboriginal people talking about them and like the colonizers, Europeans who came there, and that's their version of that creature. It's so interesting, the different the separation between the two.
Right.
For sure.
And it goes back to that pretty consistent theme we see with a lot of these is like, did the media, or when word got out, did that give people permission to come forward and start talking about this stuff? Or was it something more metaphysical where like it manifested as a tulpa because,
right.
Exactly.
Or it revived that from an ancient time and brought it into like a modern context, right?
I tend to think that it had existed, always did exist, but that with media in general, it hypes
Right.
things up. It gets the
Mhm.
word out. People think that they see it sometimes when they don't, and that's the first thing that they jump
Sure.
to. And then, of course, with media in general, we all know, and it's been the same story that's basically as old as time, that things like sex and violence sell more than your average happy story. So I'm sure back in the day, it's the
They even
same as
like
it is now. It's better
they're
to,
like, we don't want
it's like,
sex and violence. We want hairy ape men.
but
Mhm.
but
No, I hear
it's
you.
depicting
It's
them.
compelling.
It's yeah, exactly. It's depicting them in a certain way because to write a story about maybe some hairy, friendly beast in the woods isn't as exciting as saying I was attacked by a hairy
Mhm.
beast.
Right. Oh, totally. Yeah. Or I had sexual relations with a hairy beast. Could be a story.
Exactly.
Could have been.
So,
I'm just
so can I
speculating.
read you a very
That's
early
hot.
article from 1842 about?
Okay.
Okay, so the natives of Australia,
Straya.
Australia believe in
Straya.
the Yahoo.
Straya.
What is
Yeah.
happening? Can I get a hate crime,
Remember?
please? Let's take a
It's
beat.
Straya.
Yeah.
No, we
Yeah,
learned
That's
Take
for you,
two,
Bobby.
Jamie.
I
Take
wanted
two.
All
to.
right, all right.
Try that again.
It's
That's
true
yeah,
though. It
okay.
is Straya. It's Straya.
It's supposed to
Remember?
say it like that. Yeah, I know.
Straya.
The natives of Australia believe in the Yahoo, this being they describe as resembling a man of nearly the same height, with long white hair hanging down from the head over their features, the arms as extraordinarily large, furnished at the extremities with great talons, and the feet turned backwards, so that on flying from man, the imprint of the foot appears as from being had traveled in the opposite direction. Altogether, they described it as a hideous monster of an unearthly character and ape-like appearance. So even this early article is describing it in a very scary kind of way. They're not like, these were an indigenous people. They were like, look at this horrible, hideous beast that was there that had these deformed feet and these talons and they're, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like they
Yeah.
painted it in a pretty light.
Yeah, you got to sell newspapers, you know.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, it is. I was reading as well, and it kind of dismissed it like, oh, how convenient. But it was saying like some people are claiming like if you're skeptical of the Yowie,
Mhm.
you're never gonna see one, you know, that kind of
Mhm.
thing.
Yeah.
But
I
it's
believe
like
that.
if we go down the like Tulpa Egregore road, uh maybe there's something to
Badass.
that. Like if you're
Mhm.
not
I
tapped
believe that.
into the network of perception of this possibility, then no,
Mhm.
I'm sorry, Bree, you sound like you can elaborate on that a little more.
No, I'm agreeing with you. Every word you're saying, I think is I think it's the same with all type of phenomena. I think it's the same thing with aliens, everything. If you don't 100% believe, if you're not 100% open, you'll never see because you're not letting that be a part of your reality.
Let me ask you guys this. Have you had any experiences like in the UFO world, or do you know of any where you went out and there were people that were willing to like accept the possibility, and then you had your like cynical skeptics that, and so you guys did see something, but the other person was just like, I don't know what you're talking about?
You know what? I don't think I have been around someone that's
Yeah,
like,
no, me either.
where I'm like, do you see that? And they're like, no.
No,
Yeah, me either,
I
no.
have been on a ghost tour before where the ghost guide was just like, there's a ghost. Oh,
And you're
there's
like,
another
no, I don't
ghost.
see that. I can
There's a
see
ghost
that.
over there by
That's
that tree. I'm like, and everyone's like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? So that's
Mhm.
kind of the inverse of that, I guess. But
Yeah. I know. But no, I think everyone I've always been around, like, because mostly I've been around like Bree and people like that, they've all witnessed what I've witnessed.
okay, this is why we
You
need to go out in
know,
the field, because I'm
I was like,
open, but
wait,
I
Bree,
don't
I feel
believe.
like I feel like you at least have to have one story where someone.
you know, I have to be honest with you. I don't think that it is I don't think I can relate visually. Like I don't think I have experienced Miss Pretty Stoned. No. I don't think that I've ever been with someone that hasn't visibly seen something, but I am 100% sure that I've been somewhere where I feel something and
And no
someone
one
else
else
doesn't.
does.
a lot of the time. I think
Let
it's
me ask
more
you
like that
this.
feeling where people are just like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like, no, we need to get the fuck out of here.
Do you feel like there's ever been times when there was like a group event where maybe it was just like not mass hallucination, but like everyone else seemed to have seen it, but so like everyone kind of went along with it? Like, yeah, I totally saw it too, but you could sense some
They're just going
insincerity in
along.
that.
No.
Okay.
Not yet.
Let's talk about the Yowie, ladies.
Yowie.
Oh shit! Sorry, I wasn't fucking.
You're the worst.
So
Sorry.
let's fire up that 1936 photograph of the Rich Jones of New South Wales. Click this. This is probably one of the more famous photos, which I think. Well, I'll give you my thoughts on it once it's up there. So if you look on the left-hand side, it kind of looks like the figure of a like there's a lot of like red flags with context with this one that could easily be I can never say it right. Pareidolia, where I'm seeing a man in the trees, but it's really just the tree shaped like a man. Though the knees on the left and right look very compelling. But like, why the fuck is this thing just chilling on a log behind these two dudes that are like getting high or whatever?
So there's a lot of speculation about what this could be, and one of the things is what you're saying, and another thing is that it's a trick of the light, that it's just like these old ass cameras and the way the light was, it just made the perspective of it looking like that, and it's not really there. I don't know, man. That's a trippy fucking picture. I don't think
it is creepy when you see it.
I don't think that it's like photoshopped, because this is again way before a time of something like that could happen. But like, is there a way to do a trick where it could have been like that? 100%, I think of, but I don't know.
I think that we're putting.
That's what
I think we're being very critical of it. Yes,
that's what we do.
I was like, we're being very critical
That's
of it.
what we
I
do.
know. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
I don't think anything was there.
No, neither do I.
Yeah, I don't think anything was there.
But it's cool.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I'm thinking. Yeah, I think it might have been tricks of light. I'm just trying to give it the benefit of the doubt.
Is it just me, or is one of the guys like wearing a mask? It's like
it almost looks like
but he's ready.
He's like, this is foretelling of our future.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna go with a sci-fi on that one.
I think I agree too. I think I'm gonna. Not only do I sci-fi it, but I think that we actually have a better, older picture that has been referred to several times as the like the Patterson gimlet footage. Of the Yowie.
Patterson gimlet.
No, gimlet. I said gimlet.
Gimlin.
Whatever the hell it's called.
The Patterson gimlet.
Whatever the hell it's called. God damn it. And it's Steve. What's his last name, Bobby?
This is from Steve.
Some with a P.
No, Piper.
Piper, thank you.
Footage.
Peter Piper. God, this is bad. Who has the video?
I think it's me being shitty, in all honesty.
It's too dark to be a kangaroo.
It's too dark to be a kangaroo.
It's too dark to be a kangaroo.
Hold on, let me try to add it to something else. Hold on. Bree, can you give me technical difficulties? It won't even let me add it. It won't even let me add it. Sorry. That's as good as that shit's gonna get. Oh no. Let me try again. Hold on.
Don't stop squatching.
Hold on to that squash. It's a little bit better.
Hey, John, how's it going?
I don't know why it's so shitty.
Because it's a video of a Bigfoot?
No, I think it's just my computer.
Oh.
Bree, I'm gonna send it to you on Discord.
Okay.
Too dark to be a kangaroo.
It's too dark to be a kangaroo.
It's too dark to be a kangaroo.
I don't even know how they do that. It's too dark to be a kangaroo.
It's too dark to be a kangaroo.
All right.
That's a
We need
hate
a lot of
crime.
hate crimes.
That's a lot of hate.
Oh shit.
Hell yeah. Is that just a sample? Or is that like a real song?
Lord knows, honestly. Yes, holy cow, hate crime. So in this episode, when one of us tried to do an Australian accent, it's a hate crime because
It's a hate
obviously we
crime.
suck at trying to.
Bree,
I'm
it's in our
I'm afraid
it's
to
in our,
even try.
Bree, it's in our email. It's literally the last thing I sent in our email. It won't let me send it on Discord. It's too big.
Okay. Ooh, it's too big.
It's too big.
That's what she said. It's too big.
No, it's not that it's not because I'm hardwired. I'm not looking at something on the internet. My computer just has a very small graphics card and doesn't know how to compute.
Cannot compute.
Cannot compute.
Does not compute. Let us see how well this does for us. Oh, it's a movie. Fuck.
I
All
told
right.
you. That was my problem.
I'm
the file
dot
format, the
MOV
movie?
is always a dick.
Oh, fuck
I'm just gonna
that.
It's
share my
always a dick.
screen with Dan.
It should be on YouTube.
No, it's cool. We got it right here. Just hang. Everybody, just relax.
Just relax. It's okay.
I'm gonna share my screen doing this. I think it'll be easier.
Chat is always
much
hard.
better.
It's too dark. Oh god, it's too dark to be a kangaroo. It's too dark to be a kangaroo. Oh, it looks like me. Well, I don't have a problem with QuickTime. Okay.
I've seen
Replay.
worse.
Hold on, it's gonna replay. Yeah, watch. It keeps
No,
going.
my computer doesn't have a problem.
Looks better. Yeah, because my computer's awful.
It looks like a hairy beast, doesn't it?
Can you pause it? Right. Oop. Oh
Where do you
wait,
want me
wait
to
till it comes
pause?
out from the tree. Wait till it comes out. Oop.
Buzz it on that tree.
There,
There you go.
Ooh.
That looks like ass. Hold on.
So I will
yeah.
say
better.
that it's like a limp. It's like a
He's
limp
like he's like
that I
hunched
see.
over.
And that's it's like a weird, it's like a weird, I don't know, a weird, interesting pattern that he's walking. I'm not saying that it's
Look at that
bad or anything.
leg.
I'm just saying it's
No, yeah,
interesting.
it does. It does.
It's a little
look
stinky
like
leg, yeah.
a bit fluid
The
for a
stinky
human.
leg.
To be honest.
Do the stinky leg.
A lot of times they like just Bigfoots in general are described as like almost having like a glide or almost like it's like riding a bicycle across the the head stays level.
Mm-hmm.
I
So
think
go
he
ahead.
has the same body as the Grinch.
Yeah, I feel
Oh.
you on that one. Yeah,
Look at
Corey
that.
has that body type.
Green.
I think it's the
Like the
same
Grinch, like the body, like the way
the
how it has
body
like
type
the
of
belly.
Grinch.
I know
then,
what you
yeah.
meant. I know what you
Look
meant.
at that. Look at that.
Which
display.
actually makes sense with the Yowie because it looks like it has these claws and its feet are backwards.
See, I mean, you're hunched over, ducking branches, and you're already like 7 feet tall.
right there.
I mean, again, I've seen like way worse stuff that's tried to be passed as like Bigfoot footage, and that.
Oh
was,
yeah,
No,
no,
for
I'm not
sure,
saying
I
that's
agree.
bad.
it's like
I'm actually
pretty good for what it is.
I was gonna say I'm actually saying that the cadence in which it's walking is why I think that it's more of a legitimate thing because it looks very, I don't know, it looks very realistic to me. That doesn't look like forced or mechanical or like it looks like the way
Right.
something
Well,
would be moving.
In these cases, what it boils down to is either a Yowie or a human.
Eat up, eat it up.
Yeah, I'd give that a I don't know all the details of like where it came from and stuff.
Better than that other film.
Like I said,
He
it's
looks like he got
compared
a fat ass.
to the other Bigfoot
Patterson
as like
giblets.
exact the
You guys
giblet.
see that hump? He's got a hump.
Would you hump him?
No, he's got a rump roast.
I like rump roast. It's what I prefer over chicken breasts, personally. What about you, Bobby? Are you more of a chicken breast or a rump roast kind of guy?
Don't you see the rump roast?
I always take beef over chicken.
Wow.
It's like a ball of
I
pubic hair like that.
Oh, there you go.
Well, there you have it, folks.
I'll eat some chicken.
You got
I'll
to
fuck
see
up some chicken too,
yeah.
So, what do we think of that video as far as legitimacy?
That's what I said.
I think we all agree it's pretty compelling.
I'm giving it a pretty good score. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say that's like at least top 10 of videos I've ever seen. And I've seen them all.
Yes.
Okay, so
no, this guy looks pissed off. Let's roll through some pictures and just kind of break those down.
I was like, so here we have breast is best. I agree. We have right here to me is very interesting because from the side look like it's sexually looking backwards, like saying, hey, big boy. But then this one up here, it's like shy presenting itself like I'm naked, but like look at me, but don't look at me.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
I'm ready to be mounted.
Yeah, very submissive. Yeah.
Well, the one on the right's like, yeah, here it is. Knock yourself out.
Now this one is giving me more traditional vibes.
That looks like the Abominable Snowman from the Rudolph cartoon. The claymation
for sure they stole that drawing. Look
for sure.
It's like a pretty common like way it looks, but even the face though.
Those hands are very Grinch-like, Brie. You're correct.
Yeah, you see the talons and
the tendrils. No, they look like tendrils.
When it walks,
exactly. The tippy tappies,
like ass,
like swamp ass.
Do you guys think do you guys think like the talon descriptions could be like a product of people embellishing just based on how scary they were in the situation or whatever?
I think
are we in Team Talons?
Okay, so here's one thing we have to understand about the landscape of Australia again and these creatures is that there's not really an area where apes would be able to survive. Okay,
there's no monkeys.
There's no monkeys there. Exactly. There's not a lot of primates like that there. So if it has something like claws, it makes more sense because I think that it takes it out of that ape-like realm that makes it more realistic to be predator. In Australia. It's like, yeah, it has to adapt. This is what it's doing. But as you see in this picture here, it has hands in this one. So it's not, they don't always say that they have claws in them, but there's an interesting distinction between those two.
It also has like
they feast on kangaroos.
Oh.
Yeah.
Kangaroos are kind of assholes though. Have you ever seen
They kind of are, yeah.
Of kangaroos
they're
in Australia?
Scary.
Yeah,
I love that video of that kangaroo that straight squared up with that dog and that guy had to like punch it.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Damn, that kangaroo is business.
The kangaroo deserved it that day.
Agree.
Yeah, they're like swole though. They look like cage fighters.
But you know what else is interesting too that you hit on at the beginning that I think that we didn't get to talk about again yet is the fact that there not only are there these different variations of it, but it's like they're so vastly different. Like the small ones are a different color, the bigger ones are a different color. Like there's so many distinctions inside of this.
Some are aggressive, some are docile.
So it makes me start to think a little bit like, could this be the possibility if most of these encounters are being talked about by the Aboriginals and the different variations of them? Could this just be possibly a misidentification of a species of ape or animals, primates that were there that ended up extinct because over time Australia got less and less suited to their what they are? You know what I mean? Like they extinct themselves.
And that's more or less like this guy Graham Joyner more or less makes that argument. He claims that they're like the Yowie itself was relatively like unknown before 1975, and this is where we get into this is where we get into like the media reaction, willing it into existence and manifesting in physical form on the continent of Australia. But he was more or less making the argument that like there is evidence that there was something called a Yahoo, that more like likely went extinct or went extremely elusive and people had never seen before. And that's likely what's being misidentified or what the mythology of the Yowie, is derivative of. But in publishing of this book and this argument that he made, all it did was like give more notoriety to the Yowie itself and less about the Yahoos.
Yeah.
Did you guys come across anything that talked about how bad they smelled?
I did not.
No.
Did you?
I came across like 5 different stories.
Okay, tell
of
us about
people
them,
saying
please.
that they smelled like burning wire.
Oh,
which is very
mechanical.
distinct to me.
Mhm,
Yeah, that's a weird smell. And then like rotten egg gas,
Mm-hmm.
wet
Yeah.
dog.
Ooh.
That around certain people it made them nauseous
Mm-hmm.
and not to look them in the eye because then you would really get sick or some shit like that. And that they also apparently tend to come out more during storms.
I did see that
Oh.
part. Yeah. As far as the smell stuff goes, like granted, there are animals that use that as a defense mechanism, and
Mm-hmm.
who's to say that Bigfoots don't? But like at the end of the day, like big, hairy, dirty creatures in the brush, like probably
True.
smell bad.
Gonna smell
Regardless.
like ass.
Regardless, yeah.
the
I think
electric
any type
wire
of
thing
feral
was a big
animal,
thing.
yeah. Yeah, that's very
Yeah, the
distinct and
electric wire
interesting.
thing was weird.
Very.
Super weird.
Like, have you ever been to like the bear part of the zoo? Like, you could smell those things from like
really far
30
away.
yards
Yeah,
away.
100%. Yeah. Well, because another thing too is like I'm sure that they probably cover themselves in their own poo or whatever to like camouflage themselves. Like, who knows what weird things happen out there in the goddamn Australia desert
Or in San Francisco, right, Bree? What?
the San Francisco treat. I feel like that was a hate crime against
That was a
Bree.
hate crime against San Francisco and
Exactly.
deviants.
Exactly.
Okay.
You know what? If you're gonna hate crime, you have to hate crime all the way. No more of your halfway. Yeah.
Oh my God, we lost Bobby. Look what you've
I'm
done.
still here.
There
I
he
do
is.
have to step out for 1 second though.
Okay, go.
The
Run,
Sonic
run.
America's Drive-In hard seltzers.
Hitting it. Okay, while you do
Kicking
that,
in.
we'll say, well, look, we'll do this. We'll do this. Hey, Bree, how you doing?
Hey, Jamie. How you doing?
Let's say hi to everybody in the chat because we haven't had a chance to because we've been right to business with this one. Hello, Kathy Splash. Hello, Tommy G. Hello, Chad and Big Willie. I see all of your comments, but nothing you say will ever crack me because I am literally made of stone. Try all you want, but you cannot reach my level of harassment. I like that you've tried to clock into Harassment Inc., but you are not employed there yet. That's what I call it. I said I'm clocking into Harassment
who
Inc.
got a laugh out of me was Big Willie. I don't know.
Okay,
if
what'd you
saw
say?
that comment.
No, which one got you? Tell me. You should.
I'm not going to call it out. No,
Oh,
you're going to have
why?
to find it and you'll know.
How far back is it?
Oh, shit. You got to scroll, baby girl. You got to scroll.
Are you hardwired in?
Just don't put it
Before
on the
or
screen.
after? Before or after that one?
Oh, fuck. Oh, I don't even know. Oh, shit. I don't know. Where is it? Where is that? Are you hardwired in? Big Willie. It's okay. We don't need to draw attention to it.
No, now I want to.
But what we didn't say though, I know you showed a picture of the statue, but we didn't say that like that's a legitimate statue in Queensville. What's it called? It's after that one for sure. What's it called? Queens something?
Queens. Oh, we have to bring Bobby back. Sorry.
There it is.
There he is. Sorry.
Been here like an
It was
asshole
at
for like 5 minutes.
7 o'clock. It was at 7:06.
7:00. Oh, okay.
You'll have to go back and read it. It's fine.
I will. Okay, go ahead.
Back to business. Do you remember where we were, Bobby? We're talking about the stank ass smell of a fucking Yowie.
Yeah. I think it's time to get into like maybe the
Some
skeptical side of things.
explanations. Yeah.
Well,
some.
No, not at all. Not at all.
I'm sorry, Bree. You go ahead.
Oh.
We should mention that.
Oh, the
I
most
mean, obviously
recent sighting.
this has been happening for so long, but there have been recent sightings.
Oh yeah.
Mhm,
Oh
mhm,
yeah.
100%.
Oh fuck yeah.
And there were there were 3 different sightings in 2021, and there were 6 sightings reported in 2020.
Mhm.
And all of them were in this Queensland, which is where the statue of the Yowie is.
Mhm.
I read one where a guy like found a little tiny one in his garage and he like freaked out. I'm like, I just think about
Are
how
you
creepy that would
serious?
be to
How
like taking the trash
tiny?
out to the garage and there's like a little monkey man
What
hanging
the
out in
fuck?
there, rearranging tools and
Yeah,
shit.
that's a bit weird. So
Bit
I
weird.
do think we should mention one of the sightings I know that we all looked into was December
Mhm.
4th in 2021.
2021.
Yeah,
Yep.
there were
Mhm.
3 men
Thr-
that were all working at the same plantation, and they had allegedly come face to face with a Yowie on their way back to the Jimna base camp, which is, I believe, the plantation.
Mhm.
And they just noticed a slouched figure that was under a streetlight.
Mhm.
Kind of creepy. And then one of the witnesses, Seamus Fitzgerald, said that it was basically a beast-looking figure, but with the face of an ape and very long arms, which is exactly all these different
Mhm.
Mhm.
artist depictions that we've seen so far. Which it was a little bit different than Bigfoot. I think maybe with like the exaggerated long
Yeah,
arms.
and it seems to have like persistently they talk about the canines, the like fang teeth, and also the talons, which we talked about, or the what did you call them earlier? Spindles, spindly
Uh,
fingers, tendrils.
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 Mhm.
Yeah, and on that note, it's like you hear that a lot with Bigfoots outside of this region. Is like some people describe him as like, I thought it was an orangutan that was really big, and then other people like, yo, that was a dude covered in hair that was big as
Mhm.
fuck. So
Mhm.
But
like,
that's already a
it
close.
runs the gamut.
We're
Can
descendants.
I point
so-
something very interesting out about this particular encounter though?
Yes.
It's the
we didn't
comment.
finish.
Wait, no, hold on. What's I'm saying? The comment by one of the guys about it was that, and this is what he said. He said, "I've never really had a paranormal or strange experience like that before. I hardly slept that night, and the feeling was overwhelming that I had seen something that I had never believed in previously." So it was interesting that he was making it very clear to a point that like this was something paranormal or weird or not just like an animal or a misidentification. Like he obviously got the vibes from it that this was like something not of this like earth per se.
Yeah,
for sure.
and that kind of goes.
Yeah.
I mean, that. Go ahead, Bree. Sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, and it was like in that same interview that he said that they initially thought it was a boar
Mm-hmm. Yep, 100%.
or a really big animal until they got closer, and then it ran off like an ape.
And they saw it
Yeah,
move.
they always
Yep.
talk about how
You
like
know?
your brain goes through its little like card catalog of
Right, exactly.
different animals
Which is
that could
what
be,
the
and they're just like,
other
I don't
witness said
know.
too. The other
Yeah.
witness, Sterling Slowcock Bennett.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, he said we were in utter disbelief at what we were seeing. It was definitely a scary moment for us. And I was so confused at what we were seeing. And as we got closer and closer, it didn't make sense like you hoped, which is exactly what you're saying, Bobby. It's like you're hoping that your brain's going to kick in and put the pieces together, and then it doesn't. And then you're just left like,
What the hell was that? Exactly.
does not compute.
Yeah, and it's kind of the inverse of what we were suggesting earlier about like if you're willing to see something like this, you're more likely to, but I don't think that's necessarily always the case, right? Like you see all kinds of things, whether it be ghosts or Bigfoots or fucking puckwudgies or what's the other thing? UFOs.
Aliens or whatever, yeah.
Yeah, like people are like, you know, I never believed in this shit before, like before I actually saw something. Like I always just dismissed it. So you do see some of that, but I think there is something to the claims that like if you're completely closed off to it, then you're less susceptible to it. Whether that be scientifically explained by like, yeah, whatever, I'm gonna shrug that off. I don't know. That was a shooting star. That was a fucking bear or whatever. Or there is like an actual blinder on your third eye or whatever that doesn't work.
And you're just not experiencing it. I think that's a huge possibility. That's why I think a lot of people, like, when they don't see UFOs or stuff like that, it's because, I spend all the time looking up and I don't see it. I think maybe there's just some sort of a block that you don't necessarily understand, whether you think you really want to see it or not. There's something happening that's obviously stopping it from going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like let's, like, Bobby, not saying that you saw a UFO, right? Your experience, because we decided that it wasn't, but you were definitely more inclined to thinking that it was after you bought a crystal. And it wasn't because of the crystal, but I think it was just allowing yourself the permission to believe in something that isn't necessarily real. And it opened up your eyes to that opportunity to have that.
Oh, I'm just going to say this right now. I understand what you're saying, Jamie, but I've always given myself the permission. But
yes and no, but that's what I'm saying. But that's what we're saying, though. There's a secret. Sometimes there's a secret layer underneath there that you don't realize. You know what I mean? Like, there's something holding you back that you don't know whether or not you think you're so excited about it.
But to your point, like I'm completely open to stuff like this, but I'm also going to run through that card catalog and assign it. If it's like, oh, I was mistaken, I'm going to go the I was mistaken route with this stuff.
No, yeah, but that's,
you know what I mean? Like, if it was like
nature,
clearly in hindsight, I'm like, you know what, that was a fucking bear, or that was a shooting star, or that was, the pipe settling, that wasn't a ghost that I saw. Whatever it is, it's just like, if I could find a logical explanation, I'm probably going to go with that, depending on how much it does explain it. However, I'm open to, like, let's party with some fucking poltergeist.
Thank you, John. I
100%.
appreciate that.
Thank you, John. We do appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I feel like some people see things because they are super open, and then other people, I feel like, is the universe's way of shattering their reality in a way where they can't go back. Like, for whatever reason, it was a part of, this does sound woo-woo now that I say it, it's a part of their, like, life path to be forced to see things that they don't believe.
Yeah, and on the opposite of the spectrum of, like, the hyper skeptical person, it's worth noting, okay, we have your super skeptic that's like, all this is bullshit, and then on the other end of it is like, there's people that think they see fucking Bigfoots everywhere, or like ghosts, or like that ghost hunter guy I was with a few years ago. He's like, there's a ghost, let's go see that ghost. I'm just like, no, dude, like, what are you talking about? But I don't know, maybe he was seeing ghosts, but maybe he is crazy. I don't know. It's fun to explore the spectrum of belief.
I feel you on that one.
Yeah, some people, I think, are too quick to call it. And I feel like I see those people all the time on the internet. And I despise that, only because I feel like the UFO community in general, sometimes, most of the time, is already believed to just believe things. And so that's kind of like one of the reasons why we do butt stuff, is so that we can show these videos and be like, look, we actually can have an analytical mind, and that we don't just believe analytical. We don't just believe everything that we see. And I think that people that believe in UFOs already get that viewpoint from people. They just think like, oh, you just believe everything, that's an airplane or that's whatever, and you just want to believe it's UFOs. So that's kind of the reason why I like that we do that, is because if you're in this, I feel like if you're serious about it, then you should be analytical about it. Yes, there's a point where you're too skeptical and not giving the phenomena room to move, in which it does. So it's like you're constantly, I think for us, we're constantly trying to find that balance of where do you put the analytical mind and when do you let it take a back seat.
And I think I've mentioned this.
That's what you're seeing.
I think I've mentioned this on other episodes, where I stand as like, I'm like more or less the curious skeptic or whatever. I'm just like, I've never experienced it, but I'm also not dismissing it whatsoever. Any of this stuff. But at the end of the day, for me, like, whether it's real or not, the fact that it's a phenomenon in and of itself is like interesting to me. Like, okay, let's say Bigfoots don't exist. well, then like, what is it that's making people, whether that be some scientifically explained like psychological thing or like
Mm-hmm.
a misidentification? There's something going on where people sincerely believe they're experiencing something, and that in and
Mm-hmm.
of itself on its own is interesting.
I
Yeah,
think
and that's where I'm at.
That's where I think it always comes back to a lot when we talk about these cryptid, these myths, and these legends and everything. It always comes back to, I think at the end of the day, is that these people, regardless of what we think or don't think, they think that they had an experience with these things. You know what I mean? I don't think a lot of these people are purposely hoaxing. I think a lot of these people genuinely think that they experienced whatever cryptid they did experience.
And just to like simplify it a little bit, like I feel like there was a time and place where like anytime there was a UFO in the sky, people would automatically assume, oh, that's like aliens from outer space.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like, well, it could be military technology that we don't know about. It could be something interdimensional. It could be the whole theory about how UFOs themselves are actual entities or whatever. It's not like piloted by someone. It's like its own thing. I mean, it just, there's different directions you can go with now. Whereas back in the day, it was like, oh, I saw a saucer in the sky. The men from Mars are coming down, like that whole thing. Now it's just like,
it's not just cut and dry anymore.
Like I don't think in that context, like I don't think most what we define as aliens are like people literally traveling the stars necessarily. Like
no, 100%. I think that that's something me and Brie have been talking about a lot lately, is like when people think of the word alien or UFO, they're thinking about these like quote unquote little green men that are on a spaceship coming down here who come from another planet. Where like, yes, maybe, and like that's a possibility, but like I think that that's just part of it. Like there's so many more avenues of what I would consider an alien or a UFO to be outside of just green men in little silver spaceships.
And that, I mean, that's ultimately the direction we're seeing with Bigfoot now too, or Bigfoot-like creatures, as we have. Is that it's always, there's a lot of accounts that are around military bases. So is it some sort of weird, what do they call it, like a chimera experiment or something? And then you have the whole camp of like the interdimensional portal people. And then you have the flesh and blood camp. It's just like, I don't think it has to be one of these things. I think the phenomenon itself can branch out.
It could be all of it. Yeah.
Different. There's people that think that they're like the Nephilim from the Bible and stuff. Just like there's so many different schools of thoughts now. So I don't know.
I think I'm like comfortable with saying that what you're saying, Bobby, that it's not just one thing. I've said that with UFOs, and at this point, I think I'm comfortable with saying that that could be the same with all phenomena.
Sure, of course.
That every single phenomena that we can name, I would be comfortable thinking that it's everything. Like there's so many different possibilities that it's not just if you're saying a ghost, it's a ghost, like a dead person. Or
I think what you're alluding to is that we have to stop putting this in boxes so much, right? Like we have to stop saying that Bigfoot is a terrestrial this or that, and just think of the idea that all of those things are a possibility. And like a ghost could be a ghost, but it also could be someone from the future or someone from the past ripping a line. Like it's not to say that one is wrong or right, but that all of those things are happening, because I think that if one of these things is real, then all of it has to be real, right? Like you have to think about it in that kind of a sense.
Yeah, and one thing I think about a lot lately, just in general, is when you start to go down these paths of like mysticism or like exploring more like esoteric ideas, spirituality, things like that. Like the Enlightenment started in like the early 1700s. Okay, so that was what, 300 years ago, more or less 300 years ago. Whereas the rational mind of man like came as one and developed the protocols of the scientific method, and like everything must be testable and tangible and provable. And like we've been running on that operating system for like a fraction of human existence, right? Like before that, like what we see with the native and Aboriginal cultures, it's like before that, it's like, no, dude, like this is like what it is. Like I don't care that you can't fit it into your box of explaining it, but like for the vast majority of human history, whether you want to chalk it up to like, oh, people are just making up mythology or stories to explain things they can't explain, blah blah blah, that's one thing. But it's like at the end of the day, these people believe this shit.
Mm-hmm.
And this whole like skeptic movement is only like 300 years old.
Yeah,
compared
it's
to
very
all of
new.
human
Mm-hmm.
right. So like it was just the way of the world for the majority of human history. Is like people believed
They
in
just believed it
things
because
beyond.
it was
Just
the
the
way
way-
information was passed down. It was word of
Mhm.
mouth, so you believed it.
Sure.
I think that when you have the rise of things like
Yeah, mythologies, and that goes back to
transportation and roads, you have more people have access to things. So now what you have, I think, is this one culture says that the Yowie is this, but then the other culture says it's a fucking Yahoo. So then that's where you get the, well, you're doing fake news because where I grew up it was this, and I think that
Right.
that brings a big factor into
So
it.
basically, the whole world's, especially with the internet and stuff, the whole world's been fractured into different realities that people are tapping into, and like
Mhm.
it's getting harder and harder to define like objective truth because people disagree on that more really than they ever have. Not only that, is like those people that disagree communicate with each other constantly. So that almost goes back to like our egregore tulpa conversation from earlier, is like when people were united in a religion or a mythology or a folklore, did these things either manifest because they believed it? Were these just stories that they passed down to explain things? Or did these things not only manifest as they were believing it because they believed it and it manifests in the current time? Does that mean on a different timeline they were real tangible entities in the past as well? Does that make sense?
100%. Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm talking to the right crew of folks here.
The right
No,
crew. Okay.
for sure.
I say this to
So-
my family. They're just like, we're gonna take you to the fucking insane
So-
asylum.
I think that in the same breath that we're sitting here saying that like these people believe these experiences, we don't want to put things into boxes. I think now is the part of the show where we put all of it into a box and try to
I hate
we
this
try to-
part.
we try to talk about all the possible explanations of what this could possibly be other than an actual goddamn Bigfoot.
No, I do like this part because I'm still a Bigfoot fencer, so no.
No, but I think that it's important to talk about these things because I think it also helps narrow it down, because I think there's some of these explanations that I'm not necessarily into, but I think that it's important that we bring these kind of things up.
For sure, we have to bring everything to the table. I think that we're actually really great at doing that at all times.
Yeah, for sure.
We always bring everything.
So Bobby, why don't you kick it off with your biggest explanation of what you might possibly think this is when you looked into your
as
research?
if like everything we just talked about doesn't go down that road.
Yeah.
Fuck.
I have to go pee. I'll be back.
You be back. Okay, I'll start if you want me
You
to.
go ahead.
So,
Let me...
so one of the things that we were talking about, and I saw in my research, is that a lot of people in Australia just say that there's a possibility that these are just marsupials that are mimicking humans in a sense, and so it looks like they are Bigfoot. So it's not necessarily that that's what they're seeing. It's that they're seeing some sort of an animal that just has decided to stand up on two legs and walk around. Like that's the genuine response of what they think.
That's like a really interesting point, because I didn't even think about this, but I feel like though there are no like monkeys or apes in Australia, I feel like it could easily, like, especially sightings from like a distance, like the early one where the British came back from a hunting trip after the Aborigines warned them about the Yowies. Who's to say these people knew what kangaroos were at that point? And they just like, oh, there's this big muscly ape on the hill. I mean,
I think that
you know what I
lends
mean?
into the idea that we constantly talk about here on the show, that people are limited to their vocabulary when it comes to describing things sometimes. And if you didn't know any other word, an ape, but again, okay, so
And the word itself gives it the phenomenon.
If apes were not native to Australia, then why would they be calling them ape-like? Because that shouldn't necessarily be a word that they know.
Sure. But I mean, maybe they didn't literally use the word ape-like though. They
Got
could
you.
have
Okay.
just said like,
It was just assimilated
this
later
tall,
in
like,
life that that's what they were
muscle-bound
talking
thing with
about.
arms was up on the hill watching us. Is like,
Yeah.
if you weren't that familiar with the flora and fauna at that time of that extremely exotic part of the world, like things like that, I feel like could be chalked up to like maybe a kangaroo was off in the distance and you've never seen a fucking kangaroo. And how else would you? Well, I know what monkeys are. It was kind of like a monkey, something like that. But I'm gonna like, this is like what I call like the middle bitch of fact, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's just a middle bitch in general.
No, because here I do believe these. We need another middle bitch of fact.
I was like,
which
so,
would be
but
like,
I think
like
that's
a
what the numbers
7?
are there. I was like, that's what
No,
the
I
numbers
know.
are, though, right? So that's like
know.
the scale that you came up with. So if you would be like a 7.
Here's why. Well, this is. I mean, it's more layered than that, just because I feel like I always go this route in one direction or the other. But like, I believe that people believe that they've seen something, and I believe that native lore gives it more credence, and I believe that like we were talking about earlier, that like folklore can be accepted by a culture as reality, blah blah blah. I just feel like there's a lot of misidentification potential in this one. I feel like there's a lot of even, I don't know, something elusive that they don't know about it, that's not necessarily like an ape man living in the outback. I don't know. So I'm going to say there is something to this, but I'm not going to go full blown fact on like a Sasquatch of Australia.
That's crazy.
All right, I want to hear Breeze. Bree, give me yours.
I believe the Yowie more than I believe in Bigfoot.
Wow.
I think that the Aboriginals, I feel like everything goes down to Aboriginals. I mean, just
I understand what you're
in
saying.
general about star people, everything that comes down to constellations and people that came, all of that is so true. And what do you have to interrupt me for?
I was going to say, so would you be more inclined to believe in Bigfoot if there was more Bigfoot stories coming from Native Americans?
Because they're fucking everywhere. They just don't talk about them.
Because you're
I
saying
don't know.
that
I just feel like Bigfoot,
Aboriginals, it goes back to it. So I was thinking, like, because I know that you believe in a lot of like Native American myths and lore and legends and stuff. Like, if there was more stories that were prominent inside of Native American lore, do you think that you would be more inclined into believing it the same way you are with the Yowie?
Yes, probably.
Okay. Thank you.
And I just feel like there's more. There's just more. I feel like even like historically that there's more that we find with the Yowie than we do with Bigfoot. And I think a lot of things with Bigfoot is just more present day, a bit more present day than I think it is in Australia. And everyone in America likes to jump on everyone else's like bandwagon, and just like say shit.
So so like it's not as sensationalized there per se as it would be in America.
I think so.
Okay, I can feel that. I
and
catch those
it's
vibes.
like a little bit different,
but not like
than
cynically
Bigfoot.
sensationalized.
Bigfoot to me just looks like a big hairy man. I don't know. I think it's worth noting when it comes to this, I just felt like there was more substantial meat and potatoes than there is with American Bigfoot. I'm not saying that they're not the same. They could be the same. They could be cousins. They could be brothers and sisters.
I was going to say, so
I have no idea.
That's something that I find interesting too, that's a possibility that could be brought up, that like, okay, so you have all these different versions of Bigfoot and Yetis and Sasquatches and whatnot throughout all these different continents. So who's not to say that this is genuinely just some type of animal or creature or species that have slightly different variations depending on what continent they're on. But like, it should prove at this point that there's obviously something out there if all these different continents are basically describing the same thing at the end of the day.
Yeah. And for some reason, it's still not enough to make me believe.
In Bigfoot or Yowie?
Yeah. All
Bigfoot.
of them.
You got to go with your gut. I think it's worth noting though, like to Bree's point, how like it almost feels like it could be more legitimate in Australia versus North America, which is an interesting take, but like to that point, like you think about Australia and just how fucking anomalous and weird it is in general. Like it's like a petri
I was gonna
dish of
say that
biology,
too.
and there's a lot of like really ancient like lore of more mystical and like star people type shit out there. So if we're subscribing to all this phenomenon is in some way or another related on a more like paranormal level, I mean that could throw some fuel to the fire, you know?
Yeah, 100%.
Well, I was also going to say that we already mentioned this, but like Australia compared to America, they have the craziest fucking animals and bugs I've ever seen in my life. I see things on the internet that I'm like, there's no way this is real.
It is
like,
in Australia.
Yeah, this is real. This is a real thing in Australia. And I'm like, what? This thing looks like it's out of a sci-fi movie. So if any
they have
continent
mammals
is
that
to
lay
host
eggs.
something,
Yeah.
that's just, if there's any continent in the world that would host something as awful
It'd
as
be there.
this, I feel like it would be Australia.
Yeah.
Can we do an episode on like Australia's UFO
Creepiest things? Oh, UFOs,
UFO
yeah. Pine Bush.
lab theory of ancient
Pine Bush.
aliens trying out different animals or whatever. I know there's a whole school of thought there.
I love
Yeah.
that guy. We brought him up not that long ago. Damien something. I forgot his last name again, even though we just brought him up like a couple weeks ago. But he captures UFOs on camera. I believe his story. Full blown, I believe his story. I think he's one of those people that has a weird type of contact where it's not like alien to person. It's more like you get an inkling to go outside and there's always seems to be a UFO waiting for you, and he captures them on film, and that's like his form of contact. And
there's a documentary on this guy, right?
Yeah.
Australian Skies.
Australian Skies, yeah.
And I was like, I want to go down there to doggy do. What do you say? Doggy do? Dingy do?
A dingo ate your baby.
Hey,
Oh, no, where he's from, like,
I was like, I know.
dong.
Hold on. I was like,
Donnie Duber? That doesn't even sound right. Is
doesn't
it
sound
Donnie
right.
Duber?
I have no idea. So I'm gonna go ahead and give this a hard 10 fact myself.
Wow.
Because I am a big believer in Bigfoot, and I just think that I genuinely think that this is Australia's version of Bigfoot, and I think that there's just different Bigfoot throughout all continents, and I think that there's just more reason to believe in Bigfoots. Personally.
Now, Bree, were you hard sci-fi on this?
No, she was hard fact as well.
Okay.
I'm leaning more towards fact. I'm leaning.
Yeah,
if we're talking about just
you're
the
right
story,
where I am for different reasons, I think.
We're all
if
facting
it's just
it.
the story, I believe this as a story. Do I overall believe? Don't make me go back on my shit.
It was like, don't make me
No,
go back.
I was
Yeah,
just
no,
curious.
leave it there. Leave it there. Leave it there.
I blacked out for a minute, and now I don't remember what you said. Okay. So I think we're all leaning.
For the same reasons, but opposite.
We haven't had a strong fact in a long time.
I was like, yeah, that we're all leaning towards the fact side. Yeah.
I thought you were going to sci-fi this, Bobby.
No, I would say it's like a 7 for me.
Yeah, he said like a 7. I'm giving it a 10.
Mine's a middle bitch fact.
Yeah.
I like that. Middle bitch is
I like
not fact, but that's
like
cool.
I'm sitting
We're
shotgun.
leaning.
I'm not driving.
So it's leaning. It's leaning.
All right, my loves. Do you guys have any final thoughts about the Yowie?
Fact.
Yowie.
No.
Oh, yes. There's one question for Bobby that I starred in the chat from Gobstoppa. He said, ask Bibby if he believes Bigfoot's had a hand in Dia at Las Pass.
Ooh.
Cheers.
I'm vaguely familiar with that whole situation. I don't know enough about it to comment, but it wouldn't surprise me. That seems to, of what I do know about it seems to be a likely
government experiment gone wrong.
Totally.
Government experiment gone wrong.
That's a whole episode in and of itself, though.
I was like, we could definitely talk about that. I would love to with you.
I
just want to. No. We didn't. What we did is we talked about it during our conspiracy episode very shortly, but we never did a deep dive on it.
Yeah, I want to throw some stuff out there to you guys and even the audience. Like, first off,
please.
We want to mix it up a little bit. We're probably going to go in a direction of, Bree and Jamie trying to bring me into their world of hippy dippy California stuff that I'm not particularly educated on, whether that be
dippy California stuff.
Yeah, the crystal hippie bitches.
Working title is Bobby's Woo Woo Corner.
Mm-hmm.
But I also want to start focusing more on like specific anomalous situations that may revolve around a cryptid
phenomenon. Yeah.
I like that.
Kind of do some more deep dives on these, rather than these like kind of treetop overviews of various cryptids around the world. And in addition to that, another fun thing that's always great is when we hear from you guys and you guys come on the show and tell us your stories.
Experiences, your stories. What have you seen? If you've ever seen a Bigfoot or a fucking chupacabra or a goddamn Fresno nightcrawler.
If you don't think what you saw or experienced was a cryptid, I can tie it in to make.
I was like, we could probably convince you it was.
We can make it work. So.
I agree, Big Willie.
Oh, you know what? We forgot to mention that we're all going to actually meet each other in person, and we never have.
I was like, we are officially. Bobby has bought his ticket. Bree needs to buy hers, but Bobby is coming to Vegas at the end of April, beginning of May, and we're gonna party it up.
Yep.
I'm really excited about that. So we'll give you more information about that later. All right, you guys, thank you all for coming. Bobby, we love you. We see you guys next week with another cryptid and or Bobby's Woo Corner. We'll figure it out. We love you guys all. Good night, everybody.
Peace.
Bye.